Welcome to the Doktor O'Kay Show. I am Doktor O'Kay, and this is SmackDown from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where our main headline is just keep doing it together. But we'll get to that in a little bit, so let's run down the matches first with just keep maybe being friends after all, as Candice LeRae distracted Naomi to allow Tiffany Stratton to break up a pin and then land her prettiest moonsault ever to get the win and advance in the Women's United States Tournament. So Tiffy is the one, so she had the hometown crowd on her side in this one, and it paid off, showing off an assortment of her moves, including that handspring back elbow, a swanton bomb, and that prettiest moonsault ever to get the win. And amazingly enough, she's better at multi-person singles matches than one-on-one matches, having now won 3 of those in a row, and all 3 of those are more recently than her last one-on-one victory. So pretty strange there, and she goes to 3-3 in these multi-person singles matches. Candice does not get an STF for a distraction. First, she didn't contact Naomi at all, and second, it was a triple threat match, so no DQs. And most importantly, we will see Tiffy take on Micha next week in the semifinals, and we'll also see Bayley take on Chelsea Green. And Naomi is the twos, and even with a double springboard stunner and a variety of her signature moves, including the rear view and that split-legged moonsault, well, it just was not enough, with Candice's slight distraction being enough to turn the tables. So Naomi drops to 1-5 in multi-person singles matches, and Elektra is the threes, and she got the better of both of her opponents earlier on and even landed a swinging sidewalk slam, the electric shock, and the Elektra bomb. But we might not remember any of those moves since she's not ever in any matches, and just think what she might be capable of if she just got a few chances. Well, unfortunately for her, in the end, she took back-to-back moonsaults to take the loss, and she dropped a 1-2 in all singles matches, but a pretty good showing all around, so this gets an okay. In our second match, we just keep taking a ribbing with a kiss as Bianca staved off an onslaught of punishment to her injured ribs to finally hit a KOD on top of Chelsea to defeat Piper. So Bianca is the one, as she accused Piper of attacking Jade earlier in the night, but when Piper insinuated that both of them might just attack Bianca right there, she took it into her own hands and attacked first, so she'll be the one to pick up her 3rd fine of the year, but she also paid for it as Chelsea and Piper both then did attack her and knocked her to the floor. And that set up the match that ended with Bianca flinging Chelsea into the middle of the ring and then grabbing Piper off of the turnbuckle to hit that KOD right on top of Chelsea. So Bianca is right back into the swing of things in one-on-one matches now that Jade is injured, and she goes to 8-2 for them on the year. Now Piper is the twos, and she had a good strategy of attacking those injured ribs, which Bianca admittedly put a big target on her side with that kinesio tape. As usual, Chelsea helped early and often, including kicking those ribs outside the ring. So that'll cause Chelsea to pick up her 4th fine of the year. But even with a Piper driver to boot, it still was not enough. And Piper remains winless at 0-7 in one-on-one matches. Maybe it's time to start thinking about doing something else with your life's work at this point. But nonetheless, it's very disappointing to see this happen over and over again. Not okay. In our third match, we get to our main headline, but somehow not the main event. But we just keep doing it together, as DIY just looked like they were about to break up when they turned it all around, and Johnny Gargano hit Sabin with a low blow and followed that up with a super kick to Shelly. Then both members of DIY met in the middle to become 2-time WWE Tag Team Champions. So DIY is the ones, as they tricked both Nick Aldis and the Machine Guns into accepting a title match in the night after the Street Profits were mysteriously injured backstage. We can't say for sure who did this, so I guess we can't give an STF. I think there are two pretty good options though on who this might just have been. But during the match, Ciampa's anger seemed to be boiling over, and even Gargano had enough of it and he pushed Ciampa to the ground. So Ciampa went and grabbed a steel chair, surely to hit Gargano with it, signifying the true end of DIY. But the ref stopped him, and during this distraction, Gargano hit that low blow, and that turned everything around for them. So they now begin their second title reign and are now 8-6-1 in traditional tags. And for the Machine Guns, well, they had their usual assortment of team moves off of tags, and they took advantage of DIY's discord early and often throughout the match, and even were setting up for the Skull and Bones finisher. But yeah, they were tricked by DIY's antics, and so they end up only having one successful title defense plus a DQ loss in their most recent title defense, so they fall to 3-2 in traditional tags. But DIY played this perfectly, so we have to give this an okay. And in our main event, we just keep asking who needs a shoe, as Cody Rhodes overcame the very rare event of Chad Gable removing his wrestling boot, and also Rhodes avoided a moonsault to hit a crossroads to win this non-title match. And Cody Rhodes is the ones, but he took a verbal beating multiple times, first with Gable saying that Rhodes is a terrible friend, he is superficial, and he deserves whatever is coming to him, which of course set up the match for later in the night. And then later on, KO from his rental car repeated everything that he said in recent weeks, and also said that Rhodes was the one who left the company in 2016 when things were not going his way, and then made everything about him upon his return. But when Michael Cole pointed out that both the Usos and Sami Zayn also went back to help out Roman Reigns, well, KO said he didn't care about the Usos, but said he would cross that bridge with Sami Zayn when the time came. But when Cole said that KO was the problem, Owens made Cole leave the car and then drove off. So we thought that was the end of him for the night, but when Rhodes was tending to his injured ankle after the match, KO came back out of nowhere and stomped on that ankle multiple times, and then the two brawled all the way until WWE officials had to keep trying to break it up until we went off the air. But for the match itself, Rhodes gets his second non-title win in 2 straight weeks, and he improves to an incredible 15-1 in one-on-one matches. And Gable is the 2s, and even though he smartly slammed that ankle up against the ring post and then kept attacking it, including several ankle locks, and even got some help when Julius pulled Rhodes out of the ring, which got all 3 members of American Made ejected from ringside, which will also cause all 3 of them to get 1-week suspensions. It still proved not to be enough for Gable, as he's now dropped 6 out of 7 one-on-one matches, falling to 4-8 in all of those matches. However, it was a spirited enough effort here on both sides, so this will get an okay. But KO himself, for all of his actions, that's gonna get a double okay. And beyond the mat for SmackDown, we'll just note that Jesse the Body Ventura will be returning as a guest announcer for Saturday night's main event next weekend. And we'll also just note that Cole and Graves announced that there were 3 major injuries from the men's WarGames match last weekend, which were Big Bronson Reed suffering a broken foot from that tsunami off the top of the cage, then Tonga Loa had a torn biceps, and Jimmy Uso had a broken toe from his leap off of the top of the cage, so that of course will get a double not okay. So the new Bloodline was in a bit of a mood, which is understandably so after losing 2 members from the WarGames team. So Fatu super kicked Apollo Crews in the face, for the mere sin of just walking through security. Then all 3 members of the New Bloodline attacked those security guards at the entrance of the arena for merely doing their jobs. So Sikoa, Fatu, and Tama Tonga will have to pick up 1-month suspensions. But that's not all, because during Shinsuke Nakamura's US title celebration, he was first interrupted by LA Knight, who put on his mist blockers and then demanded a rematch, who was also interrupted by Andrade, and he also demanded a rematch. But while he was getting into the ring, Tama Tonga came out of nowhere and yanked his feet off of the apron, and then Jacob Fatu landed a super kick on LA Knight, so the 3 members of the Bloodline surrounded Nakamura. But Nakamura had some black liquid oozing out of his mouth, so Sikoa thought better of it and just let him leave. So he turned his attention back to Andrade and Knight and decided to just hit them both with a Samoan spike. So all 3 members of the New Bloodline, they'll also get a fine for that attack. And then Sikoa grabbed a mic and told anyone to step up if he thinks that they are weak, and reminded everyone that he is the head of the table, the tribal chief, and still has the Ulafala. To that I say, acknowledged and okay. And WWE announced that they were opening up the transfer window, or transfer portal, in order to move some superstars around from Raw to SmackDown and even to NXT to shake up the rosters for the impending move to Netflix for Monday Night Raw. So we've long been talking about having trades and whatnot for these shows, and since they refuse to do that, I guess we're just left with having to go through this route with this very unpopular thing that is now done in college sports. So I'm sure nothing can go wrong here, especially when Adam Pearce is behind the calls for Monday Night Raw. But I guess this theoretically will make things more interesting. We will theoretically give this an okay. The SportsZu probably didn't like seeing DIY win the tag team titles mere hours after his prediction that they would break up before WrestleMania, but be sure to go here to check out his predictions for 19 matches over WrestleMania weekend, which, if you do like tonight's show, that would be okay.